Good afternoon. I am Asar Taure, L, executor to Keith O'Brien Stocks Estate, expressly reserving all liberties, a man, upon the land, indigenous, autochthonous, on the landmass, Turtle Island, but has become known as the corporate state of Georgia, nation state, expressly reserving all liberties, claiming full immunity and without recourse. Uh, this video is just more so going to address some of these Moors. I call myself being supportive and subscribing to their channels because I just want to generally be supportive to people who have certain things in common with me because we might be closer in common than those who are spending millions and billions of dollars to kill people who also have things in common with me as well, such as the skin that contains a abundancy of the divine nerve and gene that causes my skin to darken when I'm near the sun. They call this chemical, this divine chemical reaction that takes place underneath the epidermis. They call it melanin, melatonin. But this is my rant to you Moors, you people who call yourselves Moors of the Moorish Science Temple of America, or people who identify as being so-called Moorish Americans of Turtle Island. You people are out here utilizing private law and are getting tons of subscribers into your channels, and people are actually listening to you, and they are considering you a credible source because they can detect that you have some knowledge and foresight about the topic of the so-called straw man, you say, the so-called commercial entity that was created so that you could participate in commerce, because commerce cannot deal with the living man or the living woman, because the living man and the living woman are private, and the private and the public do not mix. So there had to be the creation of a transmitting utility, a bank had to be created in order for you, the holder in due course, also known as the trustee, to administer within the public so that you didn't starve to death as soon as you were born, or as soon as you died, because that's not you on that birth certificate. That's a name. You are a being. A being has many titles in law. Some of those titles may be words like entity, individual, person, peoples. There's others that I can't think of at the moment. But what you are not realizing and overstanding is that you are providing people with information that can be construed as legal advice. And you are not competent to do such things. The evidence of your incompetency is the fact that you have a Moorish ID card, but you still have a social security card that's attached to your fingerprints, and that will register in international databases to a face. If you were to have your face ran by facial recognition software during a national emergency where there is no way to communicate, you can have the ID card all you want to. If that facial recognition software detects you as being attached to that birth certificate and attached to that social security card in a capacity that is incompetent, meaning you are still the registered agent for that document, even though you have another alias and another identity and a nationality, you still have a international binding contract, and you have not modified the terms of the contract. So while you over here trying to tell people about trust law and the state law, you are still functioning as an incompetent and a ward of the state who suffers from the disability of minority. And a minor, we all know in the law, means a child. It means a incompetent, one who is incapacitated. You have to understand, people, and Moors, especially you. This world, this public, is all ruled by contracts, by agreements. One might even call that by trust or treaties. The highest office, the highest law that there is the law that governs trust and estates. Some of you might try to argue with me and try to tell me that no, that's not true. The highest law is treaty law. The highest law is the law of nations. The highest law is common law. You can be construed as right in a certain perspective. However, trust law and estate law trumps all other forms of law because it's directly tied into the creation of man and the relationship of that creation taking place between the man and his creator. And that's creators with an S, because man is not created by one being and one entity. The evidence of that, there are two beings inside of you. One of those beings inside of you is attached to that body, that vessel, that car. It's a vehicle. The other has a invisible magnetic pull that pulls you towards the large ball of non-ether energy that you call the sun. Inside of you, there burns a sun. The evidence of that, when you are breathing, what do you breathe in? Okay, now what do you breathe out? Carbon, right? Okay, carbon dioxide, right? What does fire need to burn? What does fire need in order for it to burn? Oxygen. What does fire give off when it's burning? Carbon dioxide. Carbon. Do you see? There is a sun inside of you that burns. And there are scientists that so-called have proven this to be fact, only he's not proven it to be fact. He's only just now discovering that, to which we have known for tens of thousands of years, if not longer than that. Evidence is placed upon the pyramids of the planet, to which I am a descendant and living descendant of the bloodline of those who ruled those pyramids. When you function in the office, you are what's called in a fiduciary occupation. You are an officer. You are in a official capacity. You are an officer. As an officer, where is your oath? Okay? Where's your bond? You don't have any of those things. You don't even know where to go about getting those things. Why? Because you are incompetent. You cannot be out here teaching people about law and getting UCC 1 filings done and getting 9/8 EIN numbers and all of this rhetoric that y'all do. I'm not saying that it's not important to have these things, but you're putting the cart before the horse when you first need to made known on the record as well as on the public record and as well as in the private record, the county record, county recorder's office, and the private side of the clerk office, where you must go to to inform them that the grantor is either A, not dead, because it's already proven that capitis diminutia maxima, also known as all capital letters name that y'all call a straw man, but is in actuality, it's an estate or it's a trust. Because there can't be a trust without the estate, the value. How can you offer value in exchange for consideration? Because you can't have a contract. Con means war. You cannot have a contract. You cannot have a war vessel on the seas of commerce unless you are either a pirate, or you're an official. Because to do this unofficially would be misfeasant and malfeasant, and it would not be competent at all as far as what you're trying to do. Now, I understand that everybody's panicking and they don't know what to do about this doggone birth certificate, and they don't know what to do about this doggone social security card. They don't know what to do about these tickets. Don't know what to do about court. Don't know what to do about child support. Don't know what to do. Well, folks, that is the consequence of ignorance, which is the act of not knowing. And if you would stop wasting your time watching television, lie vision, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to your eyes. You're telling yourself lies. If you were competent, you would be heading into that law library. You would be heading into that law book, also known as the King James Bible, which is plagiarized from cuneiform and other sacred texts, and also manipulated and molested and not left in its purity for individuals who had ulterior motives when they made the book available to the public. You have to understand, if you're going to be teaching people about trust law and estate law, you can't be around here still acting as the registered agent for the Social Security Trust and the registered agent for the birth certificate granting. And you cannot be the beneficiary, because the beneficiary is liable. And you cannot be the trustee, because the trustee does not appoint executors. Executors appoint trustees. And if you're a female, executrix appoints trustees. And grantors appoint executors. You need to understand that if you want to lead people, you must lead by example, not by teaching. Because You're teaching people false law and false principles. How can you expect them to be successful? You yourself are not successful. What evidence do you have that you are sovereign? Oh, you naming paperwork? You're already wrong. You're already wrong. You're trying to, trust documents you filed. 98 EIN number, foreign EIN number, foreign trust EIN number. Okay, come on, man. I could open them up 7 different ways. It's not always about the 98 EIN number. Because at the end of the day, who makes it? Okay, so they create it. That means they control it. They may not control the agent, but they control the agency, which is that number. So, you must understand, Moors, that for starters, you want to deal with this thing, then you have to go to the source. You got to go to the basics. You got to go all the way back into the 1600s if you're going to try to get any kind of overstanding of what this creature or agency of the state is, and what is it for, and who is it for, and why are you still using Federal Reserve notes when Federal Reserve notes are just that, Federal Reserve notes. They're for them. They're not for you. You already are under a different contract since 1933 Emergency Banking Act. Since 1938, you're under a new contract. At that point, you are not supposed to be liable for paying for anything. You are supposed to be issuing tender for payment, promissory notes. And all of this stuff is inside the Code of Federal Regulations, and I'm not finna go through that, and I'm not finna go through the Uniform Commercial Code. I'm not finna go through the United States Code, and none of this stuff. Yes, I've read through most of that stuff, but eventually I got to a point where I just realized that stuff is not for me. It does not help the executor in occupying the office. You know what does help the executor in occupying the office? The Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of the Dead, Dead by Day. Okay? That was a trust. The Declaration of Innocence before Nitiru. That was a trust. Ma'at 42 laws. That was a trust. So, at the time of that trust, you became the beneficiary, the one who would inherit all of those years of knowledge after your ancestors have transitioned. Some of them come back. Some of them come back all the time, and they deal with us. And you may or may not know it, depending on how in tune you are with your divine non-ether energy within inside of the seat of your soul. That part of you that's really you. The part of you that causes your body to suffer from sleep paralysis because you left the body while you were so-called sleeping, and you couldn't figure out how to get back inside of the body. So what happens is your body starts to panic, and it releases a chemical called adrenaline, and that adrenaline causes you to kick in the overdrive, and it wakes you up. Whether it's a disagreeable force that is trying to utilize your vessel or what have you, you need to take time out and admit that you don't know everything. You need to tell your subscribers, hey, look, I don't know everything. This is where I've been studying, and this is where you need to continue. That's what you should tell them. You should tell them, hey, look, how can we all work as a team to make sure that we are accounted for as a collective whole? Now, you're nation building. You don't want a nation build. You just want to be the chief. But the one thing about it, you can't have a million chiefs, and nobody don't want to be an Indian. Nobody don't want to be, that's a derogatory term that I'm even using that word, Indian. I'm a living descendant of the Yamasee Native Americans, as well as the Washita, and I am a original Ta'ite. My DNA is literally the oldest DNA on the planet. My blood type is the oldest blood type on the planet, period. It precedes Africans. I'm an original Ta'ite. My bloodline can be traced to Lucy. Misnomer. Was really our empress. And they found her bones, and they call her Lucy. And the word Lucy, Lucy, circular, cycle. They named her after the moon. Some of you Bible fanatics are going to say that she was named after the devil, but the devil is not one person. The devil is an order. So when you have the devil, they might be like, man, that person's a devil. That person's a devil. He's evil. She is evil. That's a devil. Now Lucifer, that's a deity. Okay? That's a creation of their imagination or whatever have you. The devil's real because it's an order. And they utilize your body because it's a car. So, till you secure your vehicle, you are not protected. And you are operating in commerce without a license. But the reason why you folks are getting shut down every time you have to deal with an officer is because y'all trying to beat down their throat that y'all are a Moor. And the majority of the time the officer already knows you're a Moor. But that Moor is not what makes you autonomous and sovereign. It does not do that. What does do that is how you conduct yourself Are you conducting yourself in a private capacity, or are you conducting yourself in a public capacity? There are usually a couple of questions that the judge or that the policy enforcement can ask you to ascertain your standing. And you don't even know it because you have not done the true due diligence. First off, you need to find out from the officer. Officer, are you a peace officer or are you a judicial officer? A lot of people don't even know to ask that. But if you ask that, you need to ask it in a way to where you can trap him, because he can be like, he might say, I don't know. Or if he says he don't know, then you say, do you file W-2 or W-4 at the end of the years? If he responds yes, then that means that he is not a government official. He is functioning as a private corporation employee with a bar and badge number and is forbidden from acting in the office of the fiduciary oath that he would have to take in order to be a government employee, such as a peace officer, who is charged with the fiduciary duty of protecting and preserving the peace while in the public. That's why the first thing they ask you when you're pulled over is for a driver's license, because it is commercial, it is public. But you fail to let the officer know, hey officer, I have a birth certificate, I have a social, I have a driver's license, but I'm only an administrator to that. I'm only administrating that stuff. I'm not operating in commerce. I am simply the holder in due course, if you want to go commercial equity UCC talk. But I like to go, I'm the occupant of the executor office. Where is your written delegated authority to administer to this estate? You don't have it from this executor office. That is breach of a trust. That in itself is the worst crime that you can commit, especially for a public officer. That is treason. If you don't believe me, look it up. A violation of a trust is the worst crime you can commit. What is a trust? Trust is a contract. What governs contracts? The Uniform Commercial Code, private law. The Uniform Commercial Code is a public document, or at least it's regulating the public. But you ever stop and ask, who wrote the Uniform Commercial Code? Who's responsible for that instrument? What gave them the authority to make that instrument? You see what I'm saying? If they presume the authority, well, you deserve everything that you're getting, because guess what? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And because of the fact that you are functioning as an incompetent in law, suffering from the disability of minority, and you have not done anything to correct that status that is assigned to you as the registered agent, because you are going out and creating commercial and public contracts in commerce under the name of the grantor's estate. So this is just a little bit of my rant. I'm getting tired, so probably finna go to sleep. But I just wanted to talk to you Moors, man. I'm starting to get concerned, man, because I'm listening to 4 or 5 different Moors, and I'm like, look, man, y'all are okay with some of the information you got, but y'all are not even functioning in a competent capacity or standing to be out there giving lectures about law. Now there are some Moors out there that I ain't gonna lie to you. Them brothers, they are very, very well uh, educated and well studied in their venue. But even they would not be able to go toe to toe with me when it comes to the information and outformation that one can gain through studying. My name is Ta. Ta is Thoth. Thoth is Tahuti. That is the record keeper of the Akasha records. I don't keep those records. However, I do keep records. And my records that I keep are only to document everything for the all, for when Nibiru comes and that time is here, that moment of truth, when everybody's going to realize that everything was really lies and that the truth is here. Because all you're going to do is look up at the sky and it's going to occupy the entire horizon. Because Nibiru, which houses the Nitiru in the planet-sized spaceship that they believe to be Planet X, but is in fact occupied by 144 crew members and is also occupied by 24 pilots and co-pilots. These Nitiru are coming to the planet to answer the cries of the people of the blood that is screaming from the lands of all of these murders and atrocities that are taking place amongst their creations. So while a lot of these people are out here waiting on Jesus to come back, realize the real lies. He's back. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but it ain't me. But if you are a proven Moor and you study and you make yourself study to show yourself prove to be competent in any capacity that you may function and occupy while in your seat of your car, you call the body, which is in fact land, then I say to you, Moor, continue to further your value and further your knowledge and prepare yourself. You got any gold? No. Where's your power? You have solar panels? You got backup panels? Do you got generators? What about water? If the government said, well, hey, we need to cut off the water for 6 months, what can you do? Do you even know how to purify water? Do you even know how to go to the lake and purify the chemicals and other abominations against nature that are committed by the beast and the people who worship the image of the beast? Okay? So these things you got to know. And I shouldn't have to come on here to tell you this, but I have to because I love you all. Every last one of you. Every single Moor. Even if I get on to you, I still love you because guess what? I am a Moor, but I am only a Moor by bloodline and inheritance. I'm a Nuwabian by bloodline and inheritance. I'm a Sabian by bloodline and inheritance. But guess what? That doesn't make me. I wear kung fu shirts because that is what I like to do. That is my peace. That is what makes me feel at one-ment, atonement, at one-ment, atonement. I am atoned when I practice Wing Chun martial arts, Kung Fu. That is my, as they say, Zen. So you need to find your Zen, and you need to also find your facts. Stop relying on second-class research to be a definite answer to these problems, because it's not going to work like that. Getting rid of that social is not easy. It's possible, but it's not easy. Getting rid of that birth certificate is it's possible, but it's not easy. There is a way to get rid of all those things, but you don't want to get rid of those things or you'll starve to death. How are you going to live? How are you going to operate in commerce? What are you going to do when you have to go? Because they cannot recognize a living man. They cannot recognize that. That's why when you go in the courtroom on your square, the judge cannot prosecute, because he cannot establish subject matter or in personam jurisdiction upon the land or the vessel. They're treating you as you're a vessel when you're in there, but you're also the land, and he can switch into different venues on you. But if you are not competent, you're not going to see him when he switches, and you're not even going to know he's going to switch on you. You have to understand there's a religious proceeding taking place inside of that courtroom. And you are not even invited, for one. You don't have a bar card, so you don't have permission from the queen to do it. And anything you go in there swearing, you're automatically wrong. You're automatically in the wrong, because what is it based upon? It's based upon the 1611 King James Bible. Every single court should have that, because that is the book of law that is the highest law in that religious proceeding taking place in there. If it's not a religious proceeding taking place in there, why does the so-called judge have on a black robe? Why is that? Why does the so-called judge sit there and act as God? If according to Matthews, God said, Yeshua said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Then he also said, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thy oath. But I say unto you, swear not at all. Okay, so he said that, right? If you're going in there swearing, you're going in there arguing in dishonor. And you simply don't have to do none of that stuff, or you just have to get competent so that when you encounter these public officials who are practicing private law or private policy, not private law, but private policy, it doesn't affect you, nor is it relevant to you, nor does it have anything to do with you. Okay? You need to learn how to stand on your square for real, because if you do this the correct way, you won't make it to court. You won't even make it into the squad car. And don't get me wrong, you do have some officers that will fraudulently and illegally not only break the law, break international law just to lock you up. But that's no consequence to you, because you can be compensated. You're dealing in commerce. That's the thing about them working for a corporation, is that they could not work for a private corporation and function in commerce. They had to be able to be sued and they have to be able to sue. That's why you were given a social security card. That's why you were given a birth certificate, to administrate as an official in the office of man, in the office of executor, executrix, not the office of trustee. Because the trustee takes orders from the executor. The trustee cannot appoint executor. The grantor appoints executor. Executor appoints trustees. So if you are standing upon your office as an official competent and an executor to an estate of a grantor who at the moment is incapacitated, because we don't know where the grantor is, and you don't want to be that grantor because the grantor is completely liable. Okay, you need to get a copy of Bouvier's Law Dictionary, and you need to study that, and you have to become competent with that. Be competent with the words. Okay, that's it for this video. I need to stop because I go all day. There's a reason why I don't have tons of views on my YouTube channel, because I haven't been spending my time teaching. I've been spending my time researching. Searching. I've been searching for Re, the sun, within me. I'm not looking out, I'm looking in. But now it's that time to where I have to help my brothers and sisters before the power gets cut off, before wars and rumors of wars cause the next government corporation war games and whatnot. You have to be prepared. You just got to stop depending on the government. Stop being a ward. We're the only ones who can stop the national debt, but y'all are incompetent, so y'all can't stop anything, because y'all wouldn't even know what to do. You wouldn't even know how to discharge a debt and offset and zero out and tender payment. Okay, you wouldn't know how to do any of those things. Only thing that you would know how to do is stand there and keep blaming everybody but yourself for why you're going through the things you go through. So, I'm Asar Taure, executor to Keith O'Brien Stocks estate, expressly reserving all liberties, a man upon the land, indigenous, Native American, on this landmass, Turtle Island, that is known by many to be North America. And I'm expressly reserving all liberties, claiming all immunity, and without recourse. And that's it for this video. Make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the bell, because if I make a video, I make a video. I don't just shoot videos on YouTube, because if it doesn't create positivity in the world, and if it doesn't help motivate people, it's really pointless to do. Stop wasting your time more and start bettering yourself. And I'm not saying don't teach, because each one should teach one. But you got to make sure that the subject matter that you're teaching, you're competent to teach. You have experienced the fruits of your teaching. you have went to an officer and compelled that officer and binded that officer into his oath of office. Because if he forfeits that, it's treason. That's a violation of a trust. That is a crime worse than death, murder, in the eyes of the public and the government and corporations. Sartare, expressly reserving all liberties without